Morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a good day. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for setting aside some time to listen to us today. My name's Stephen Nobes. I'm a key account manager for Legal and General. You may have noticed that I'm not Sophie. Sophie usually runs these seminars and these sessions with our guests, but unfortunately she's not very well today. So I thought I'd jump in and do this one. It's actually one quite close to me. We're going to be looking at mortgage tech intro, what's happening in the mortgage tech space, and specifically with Smart 365. I used to work at 365, so I know about all the cool stuff that's going on there. So hopefully we'll be in a position where we can share some of that with you, and hopefully it sort of touches on your world as well. We want this to be an interactive session, so you'll see on the far right of your screen there's a question section. So they are anonymous, so feel free to drop questions if you want to, and I will pick it up at the end of the session today. Any questions at all you feel are pertinent or something that's impacting your business, feel free to let us know, and we'll try and answer it the best we can. So let's crack on. So I'm joined by Thora today, who's the Chief Product Officer at Smarter 365. Hey Thora, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Hi, Steve.
Good. So obviously we wanted to have a quick chat about mortgage tech. You guys at Smart 365 are really seeing the sort of front runners in that space. So we'll just sort of crack on, and like I said, if there's any questions, I'll repoint them at you. So what we saw, just looking at sort of the club experience, we saw product transfers exceed 40% of our business in July, which it's never happened in club. So clearly there's a huge pull for customers and product transfers. And with PTs and refinancing becoming more and more important, how do you guys think that brokers can make sure that they're not missing out on any of that business, or maybe losing out to those lenders who are contacting those customers direct?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I know, in predicting this year, everybody knew that it was going to be a bumper year for REMOs and PTs, and we could see all of those kind of lining up. But then that combined with the new rate market that we've been in for the last year or so just adds a lot of pressure, I think, onto that process, and also kind of concern from clients and home buyers. So from a smarter perspective, what we've done is try to give mortgage brokers some tools that they can employ automatically happening in the background to make sure that their PTs and REMOs and home buyers are kind of feeling the love from them, and being aware of what their options are early, getting engagement early. And we call this set of tools our Smarter Retain package. And that's what it's focused on. We're focused on retaining those customers that you've dealt with in the past, but in an automated way, so that when it comes time for them to remortgage, you're front and foremost of their mind, and it's a no-brainer for them to just pick up the phone and get going with you. So a couple of the things that we have is we've got automated home valuation tools that get sent out to them. So every quarter or so, every couple of months, your customer is going to find out what the current valuation of their home is. It's backed by Zoopla, which is really nice. It just means that you're constantly providing them with some value. And again, you're kind of keeping your name front and foremost for them. But then 6 months before it's coming up to their remortgage, they'll get sent a custom email letting them know that is now the time to start thinking about this, what it means, and how they can engage with their advisors, which is really nice because you're getting that message out to them before the lenders are, which is good. And then the other thing that we have is we've got our client portal tools. So that's our home buyer portal, our home buyer mobile app. And the nice thing is that the way that we've built it is once you enter your fact find information and all the long, lengthy list of fields that we know everybody needs, that's it. You only need to go back in and put in what's changed. So if you did a 2-year fixed rate mortgage, let's say, what's changed in the last 2 years? Probably not too much. So you don't need to start from scratch again with that whole fact find process, which is really, really nice for everybody involved. So yeah, that's a couple of the tools that we have for brokers to kind of think about when it comes to PTs and REMOs.
So obviously you guys get a lot of people who are, I was a broker probably 8 years ago and I just used to work off a spreadsheet. Do you get a lot of customers who come to you with sort of spreadsheets, or, that's their customer strategy? They just have a list of, when the rates end, we'll contact this customer. How does a broker sort of look at that, and is it easy for them to move on to a system like Smarter when they use those sort of, those Excel spreadsheets that they may be using for years and years?
Absolutely. The breadth of the type of customers that come to Smarter is so broad. We've got, like you said, people that are using Excel spreadsheets, right the way to people that have built their own bespoke CRM but realize it's way too expensive for them to actually maintain that. So we've got like such a breadth of types of brokers, and also how comfortable they are with tech. And the big thing about what Smarter does is we're a platform, but we don't mandate that you use any particular set of tools or that you use it in any particular way. So you could come on board and just focus on a few core pieces of functionality that's going to help you today. And then know that you've got all these other tools and other help and support there for you when you're ready to kind of take the next step in moving on digitally. And I mean, starting with Smarter can be as easy as just uploading a spreadsheet with all of your leads, or, I think it's about 7 pieces of information from your back book is enough for you to already kick off these automated emails. So it doesn't need to be overly complex to get on board.
Yeah, I think that's what people are worried about, aren't they? Is that switch process, and if you make it easier for them, then it's easier to adopt, new tech. So, a topic that has come up a lot over the last sort of year or so is consumer duty, and they're almost like a dirty word at the moment in the industry. But it was a massive change to how we do business, how we engage with lenders, and it's clearly not just been and gone. It's not just a case of MCOB rules change, we've implemented it, away we go. What people are sort of thinking is how can tech help brokers create that better customer experience for their for engaging with their customers initially, and obviously the PT side we've touched on, but moving forward, how do they create a better experience for their customers?
Yeah. So for us at Smarter, we're thinking about consumer duty in a couple of ways. So the first one is obviously the core of what it's trying to do. Everybody believes in, right? Like you give the right information to customers so that they've got a strong understanding of what their options are and what their products are, and what that means for them financially. And then that means that they get the best outcomes for their unique situation. And I think to be honest, every advisor agrees with that sentiment. I think perhaps
If not, they shouldn't be an advisor, really, should they?
Exactly. But where it gets difficult is there's been no direct guidance on how exactly to implement that. And so from a tech perspective, you can think of tech as being like a kind of complementary helping hand to you for your process. And how tech can help specifically with consumer duty. The first way is you can use tech to create that consistent process. So if you've got a consistent process for how you interact with your clients and your home buyers, then obviously over time, you can keep tweaking that, making sure it's giving everybody the best outcomes. But by using tech to have that consistency, you're also automatically creating the evidence off the back of it. So I'll give you a few examples, right? Like you could use our document store to interact with clients from a documents perspective. So you can track exactly what documents, which ESIS, what information has been shared with them, and when and by who. But then also, even if they've seen it, did they actually log on and acknowledge that? Did they read it? Did they accept those terms? And so you're giving a better experience for them, because now they've got a central place where that holds all their important documents and information, which is nice. But you also have the evidence to show that you did provide that information and when you provided it. So I think tech can definitely be like a bit of a helping hand with it. The other side of it is obviously, I think it's put an increased emphasis on protection and home insurance that maybe wasn't there before.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just in terms of like the customer acknowledgement piece, I mean, so previously they would have had to dig around in their emails to see when they've received it, any response. So it's just really reducing that element of things, isn't it, for the broker, that legwork that they're having to do.
Yeah, and even just chasing up, like, did you read it? Do you have any questions? All of that stuff takes time. It takes time, and from a home buyer's perspective as well, people expect to use tech nowadays, I think, on the most part. They want the skilled mortgage advisor at the back end giving them the advice, but they want to be able to read it when they're on their way home, on the tube, on the couch, on the weekends, and then be able to find it quickly in a year's time when they need to check something. So there's kind of benefits to both sides, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned protection, and obviously, we live in a world where cost of living seems to be just escalating massively at the moment. But it seems to be, I don't know, the brokers might be able to help me out with some questions here or some observations, but it seems to be that brokers I'm speaking to are seeing a dip in protection. It seems to be a blocker because it's almost seen as like a luxury item, which is a strange world, considering it's basically the world's worst lottery. If you don't have it, you're in trouble. But it's a monthly cost that personally I think is essential. I suppose the question is, how can tech help in that protection journey? Are Smarter working on anything in that space at the moment?
Yeah. This year for us, honestly, it's been a huge focus of what we've been doing on our roadmap and from a product perspective. So we've been focusing on both protection and home insurance. Around the first half of this year, we launched our integration with UInsure CX. So UInsure CX is basically where UInsure have built this tool that knows how to communicate with customers at the right time with the right information, excuse me, based on like attributes about them, to basically help encourage and give the right information and make allow the home buyer themselves to engage in that home insurance process, which results in a higher conversion. And the nice thing about it is it happens in the background. It's not something that an advisor needs to participate in, other than sharing that information and those updates. So it's kind of win-win for brokers that don't typically sell home insurance in the past. So that's been great, and we've had such good feedback on that since that's launched. I think it's one of those products that is a real kind of innovation product. It's a change. It's something really exciting. It kind of starts to touch on a bit of, the power of kind of maybe AI and machine learning and what you can do with that kind of thing as well, which is great. And then on the protection side of things, we actually took our whole protection journey and we've been enhancing and upgrading that entire thing from top to bottom. So right the way from the protection fact find, what key information is important. We're about to launch a beta version of our financial overview section, how you can set a budget for your customers as well in terms of protection.
That's cool.
Which is, really nice. People are really loving that. Then also like how you capture your needs and demands. We've totally shifted how you can capture your needs and demands and the amount of detail that you can put into that section, and then how that can then flow on to sourcing from the likes of a solution builder, pulling that back in automatically to create your cases and the benefits and all the documentation that you need, really, so that it becomes a simple process for advisors, but it's far more detailed and much more in depth because as you said, people's financial circumstances are more complex nowadays. So it's been about 9 months of development, and the whole way through we've had protection advisors in giving us feedback, telling us what we should be focusing on. It's very much been led by the advisors themselves and what they want. and we're kind of starting to see the good feedback and the good comments coming in from them now.
That's cool. And are you found, you mentioned you had a lot of feedback from brokers in the protection space. Have you found they've increased like protection rates, or I don't expect you to have numbers, but are you finding from the feedback that they're selling more protection, their uplift is higher? Are they finding a positive outcome by using the system?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. And not only that, what we found is that actually that was a really key metric or a KPI for most of the firms that we were working with. They actually had set increased targets for their advisors, or they were planning to upskill more advisors to sell protection. So definitely, like strategically for a lot of firms, this was a really key point. And I think it's probably off the back of Consumer Duty, but given, as you said, the climate that we have right now, it couldn't be more important for most people.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on some of that AI stuff. I'm just going to talk about open banking quickly first, because I think, I suppose from an advisor's point of view, we're so in the weeds, we're so in that space where we're trying to find the best outcome for the customer. We're thinking about criteria and rates and all that stuff, and we hear a lot about open banking and AI. And I've got a question about AI specifically in a second, but can you just explain to us what open banking is and why it would be important to a broker's sort of day to day?
Yeah. So all brokers are going to ask people for their bank statements, and they use their bank statements for lots of different things. They want to prove affordability. They need to prove income. They need to probably also look at your source of funds for a deposit if you're doing a purchase. They're going to check that there's nothing on there that might cause concern, perhaps as well. Maybe they're checking what their credit commitments are, or double checking the expenditures that the customer wrote down. So it's a common thing. It's also what banks also ask for in the packaging. And so this is something that you have to provide right now, all the, from a client's perspective and from a broker's perspective. And open banking, what that means is it's basically opening up all the information that is held within a customer's bank account details. And it creates a standard that all banks are supposed to comply to. So that makes that data now available for tools to then use that data and share that data in a really secure way. So in order for you to access that information from a customer's perspective, it kind of looks like they're logging into their banking app, right? It will use whatever they have to use to get onto that app. But then it allows us to build tools off the back of that can use that information from source. So there's no way you can make it fraudulent, right? It's pulling the information from source directly from the bank. And the other nice thing about it is you can connect up multiple bank accounts, multiple banks, all in a couple of clicks. So in one journey, you can say, I bank with, Lloyds and NatWest, and now I've got that other account that I use for my, for my normal day-to-day spending with Barclays, for example. And rather than you having to go off and try and find all your bank statements from all these different places and download them all and scan them onto your machine and then upload them, you can do it from a few clicks from your mobile app, which is quite nice.
That's cool.
And so we spent, I would say, the guts of about 18 months working with HSBC and Nationwide on proving to them that off the back of this data, we can then replicate the bank statements, but we can actually go even one step further in using Experian's open banking journey that they have. We can also categorize all of that information, which is really nice. So we actually basically recreate the bank statements because that's what the lenders need, and they have proven it's just as good, if not better, which is great. That ticks that requirement. But then from a broker's perspective, we don't just give them the bank statements, we categorize everything for them. So we can say over the last 6 months, this is the income that they've gotten in, this is the type of expenditure that they've done. And then you can very quickly see, maybe there's a gambling problem or something else there.
So it's helping with budgeting, it's doing things like reducing fraud, and it's saving time really, because I remember as a broker just asking for bank statements, I always used to get WhatsApp images with a thumb on the corner and stuff like that, and it was just a nightmare having to go back and say, I need these bank statements again, and then the product expires. So it's all the knock-on effects that you're supporting that sort of growth, aren't you, as well? So what about things like lenders? So with open banking, they're accepting the bank statements. Are they going to be starting to accept the raw data instead of having to sort of send statements? Is that something that's coming down the pipe for brokers to think about?
That's absolutely where we want to go, and that's why, to be honest, I mean, ideally we'd skip the recreation of the bank statements and go straight to that step, but unfortunately, we're not quite ready for that. Yeah, we were not quite there yet, so we kind of had to kind of replicate what the current process is, just to prove that it works and that it's possible. But yeah, absolutely, that's where we want to go. We want to be able to share that information from source with lenders, but maybe also other third parties that might need it as well in the journey,
like solicitors and things like that for ID. Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly.
You mentioned AI earlier, and I think for me this is a really interesting one, because I don't know if but you or whether anyone else listening saw that Kudu report about an AI advisor, and I thought this is either really cool or it's really scary, because ultimately with the likes of sort of deep fakes coming in, you could potentially have a mortgage advisor that it has natural language, is plugged into affordability tools, who may be able to start doing some of that work. I suppose from an advisor's point of view, what they're thinking about is, how can I embrace AI without it risking taking my job or replacing an advisor in a firm? Have you guys got any thoughts on how you're looking at AI in that space?
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone saw that report and was a bit scared. The concept of robo advice has been around and kind of pitched around for a while, and it's come back up now because of, as you said, now the tools are smart enough to be able to communicate like a human. They can mimic natural language, as you said. Am I surprised that an AI tool could pass the FCA exams for the brokerage advice? No, absolutely not, right? This is an algorithm that consumes vast amounts of information, that can analyze that information really, really quickly, that can put context onto those problem solving as well, and then spit out answers. So I would be shocked if it couldn't at this stage, right? Because, it's essentially up there. It's got unlimited amounts of memory and recall that it can go back to find the answers. But it doesn't have empathy, right? It doesn't have, it can't look at somebody's face and understand if they understand something, if they're concerned about something, if maybe there's some vulnerabilities there. There's basic advice, but then there's the actual broker advice that they're really giving with the service, which is about having that skilled and experienced advisor who can give reassurance. And I think for most people, purchasing a property is one of the biggest things that they will do. And it comes with it's your home. It comes with,
they want emotional support, don't they, for that process? They want a hand to hold.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, I think brokers will remain kind of at the heart of the process, that's for sure. But then how you can use AI. So we actually did a hackathon last week. We had Jodie Wood and Joe from your teams from L&G down as well. And we were just looking at what tools are available on the market and kind of like what cool things can you do with it. And there's a lot. It's actually really exciting. So anything where there's manual effort, you'd have to do the same repeatable tasks all the time, that's ripe for AI. We saw some really cool things with being able to analyze documents, for example, and categorize them and pull information out of them, and some other great ideas as well, that I'm hoping we're going to end up being able to plug into Smarter at some stage. But other things that you can use it for is things like risk assessment, for example. So being able to analyze that kind of vast amounts of data, understanding and the nuances on a fact find that's been recorded, and then providing trends and insights back to advisors on what is happening, things they might need to look at, maybe compliance flags. All of that kind of stuff is perfect for AI and really helps brokers not need to do any of that manually intensive admin side of things, and instead focus more on, you know, the actual core advice.
Yeah, I think the message is we had this, you know, years and years ago, didn't we? That robo advice is going to come in. It's going to take over one of the big banks like Amazon. You know, one of the big players like Amazon is going to come in and buy a bank, and they're going to take over the space. But I think the thing we've learned over the last couple of years is intermediated has gone from 75 to 80% of business. So advisors are at the core of it. And I don't think it's something to be afraid of, but you know, if you can take all that heavy lifting out of your advice process and maybe get a bot to do your product transfer stuff that we talked about earlier, to do some of the document assessment, to call for a bank statements, it just makes your life a lot easier. A bot easier. That was almost a Freudian slip of the tongue. Cool. We haven't had any questions as of yet, but if anyone has got any, just fire them in and we can chat through them. I can see from the poll there's a few of you who use Smart 365 and a few of you who don't. If you don't, we'll have a chat obviously after this about how you can demo and find out a bit more. But I suppose my last question is quite pertinent to this week. So we saw there was news in the market. We thought there was going to be a rate rise yesterday, but we saw a couple of days before interest rates drop with some of the big six lenders, which created this disparity about what's going to happen in the market. And I think rates held, brilliant, it's great for the economy, you know, but that message very quickly became in the media, right, if rates are holding, what does that mean for a consumer's interest rate on their mortgage? Is it going to drop? And the feedback we got was probably not at the moment, because we're trying to curb inflation. But I suppose my question for Tech is how does that help a broker react to those changes in the market that may be happening daily, you know, with those Bank of England base rate dropping out, I think it was 14 times concurrently. How can we react to our customer in a sort of timely manner in a market that moves constantly?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got integrated into Smarter the sourcing systems. And I know L&G, you guys just launched Ignite, obviously, this year as well. And I know that Ignite is built off the back of APIs, which means that you can automatically update products that are available very, very quickly. I think having something like that integrated into your CRM is really important, because, yeah, things change all the time. Now, they didn't used to, but now they do. So, you know, you need to have an integrated system so that you can quickly check for those changes, check what the impact is, and also a way for you to share that information back out to your home buyers really quickly. I'm actually in the process at the moment right now of buying, and I've changed products 4 times because the rates, I keep getting slightly better rates. But that only works if my broker can contact me really quickly, share the ESIS really quickly, really securely, really easily, and that they can access their sourcing very quickly as well.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of that is, let's say you source for the product, but they're going to pull it. You need to be able to apply to your lenders really quickly. And that's where the lender integrations become really important. And I think the tide is changing from a lender's perspective of how they used to think about these integrations. A few years ago, we were the first to launch with Halifax and Barclays, but at the time, there wasn't a huge amount of investment in that area. And it was you know, great that we got those 2 over the line. But now we're starting to see a shift, and we're starting to see lenders kind of embrace this technology and understand that it's going to become really important. And so we've expanded, obviously, our Smarter Connect lender integrations to have many more lenders. And this year, we're working with another lender who I can't say who it is yet because we haven't quite announced. But we're getting pretty close to the end of that journey and being able to get some beta testers on using it. And it's fully digital. So you never need to click into their portal. It's going to be all through Smarter. And literally it means that if you heard that something was going to be pulled, you click a few buttons and there you go. You've got your application sent over and it's all automatic. I think they're going to become more and more important as the products kind of keep changing and rates keep changing.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously most lenders have signed up to this mortgage charter where they're going to give you 24 hours, but we hear on a daily basis that brokers are working till 10, 11, 12 at night just to try and get those applications in. We saw with people like HSBC, they have a queue time and you have to wait for those things. Whereas I suppose if you had an integration into those lenders, you wouldn't have to sit in a queue. Essentially, you just apply that data and you can go enjoy the rest of your night. Awesome.
Exactly.
I think that's all. Sorry, go on.
You save the 30 minutes of rekeying too. And I know that like advisors and admins have gotten expert at how to navigate the lender portals.
Yeah.
But I mean, multiply, if you've got 20 products or 20 clients on the go, multiply that by half an hour each. That's a lot of time savings that you could be spending on something else.
More cases you can write, more money into the business. I mean, we know that it's becoming harder at the moment for brokers to earn money. We know that PTs have slightly less proc fee on them, so we're having to think about how we can help brokers earn more money. So it could just come down to effective time management, right? And we've touched on probably 10 areas today that are natural sort of touch points in a broker's journey, where if they can save time, they can 10x their cases, right? Which means that you're earning 10x income into the business. And the thing I find really exciting about tech as well is that it can somewhat help you reduce your overheads. We as brokers, we probably use 3-4 different systems for multiple different things. And I think having a conversation with someone like Smarter, what it allows you to do is maybe go, oh, actually, I can consolidate all of these systems into one and actually just have all the data in one set instead of rekeying between multiple areas.
Yeah. And as you said before, sometimes the hard part is just, getting onto the new system. But then for a system, like Smarter, where we're constantly adding in new features and we're constantly improving and, we drop new code every week. You're not just buying the product as it stands today.
That's the most tech thing I've ever heard, by the way.
What?
We drop new code every week. We're agile. We drop new code every week. It's the most tech thing I've ever heard.
I managed to keep agile out of this conversation until you just brought it in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Exactly. but we do, and not all. And I mean, in this industry, most tech providers don't, and they can't match that. Obviously, the likes of Amazon, that's a different story. But in a regulated industry, there is some limits on how frequent you can be. But it's important. It's important that if you are looking for tech, check out what industry they work in, check out where they're planning to go, because you want to be bought into the kind of strategy of where they're going as well.
Yeah, I think this is something quite niche that I picked up on a few days ago. Actually, was in consumer duty. A lot of people are thinking about like UK data centers and where the data is held. I know you guys are UK based as well, and it's maybe some things like that a broker wouldn't necessarily need to think about. But it's nice to know that businesses like Smarter have taken care of that for you. And I think leads on to my last point, which is, so we haven't had any questions in, which is fine. Quiet crowd, absolutely fine. I think maybe people want to engage directly. I can see from the poll that 50% of the people are already Smarter users. So for the 50% who aren't and maybe thinking about how they can restructure their business, become a bit more streamlined, what's the next steps for them? Who do they contact? How do they what's the process post this session?
Yeah, so I think we're going to share 2 links. So you can go straight to our website and check out a little bit more about us. From there, you can just click on the book a demo, and that will go straight to our sales team, who will be happy to like hop on and actually show you what Smarter looks like and take you through that process. Or there's also a kind of deal between Smarter and L&G. I know that there's some there's some partnership there. So there's also a link to find out a little bit more about that as well,
Cool.
that we'll be posting.
Yeah.
And then for anybody who is with Smarter already, and anything that we've spoken about, you want to hear more about, a big part of Smarter is our customer success team. So when you join Smarter, you'll be given an account manager, and that's somebody who will be there, to onboard you, to train you, but also to be there whenever you've got any other questions and to help you out with anything new that we are releasing. So if you've heard anything new that you want to find out some more about, shoot your CSM a message and they'll be happy to take you through any trainings that you might need.
Awesome. Right, I don't think there's any questions. If there is anything after this session, just feel free to contact us. If you're an L&G account, one of mine, just let me know, and I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction as well. If not, thank you very much for your time, everyone. Thanks, Thora. I really appreciate it. We hope you guys have a good weekend, and hopefully speak to you soon.
Thanks, Steve. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.